KO Road in Geneva, Wisconsin, in the beginning of June 2014. Highway workers were out mowing the grass at the side of the road. While they were working, one of them would sometimes notice something strange. Two luggage, one black and one purple, that seemed to have been left behind. The fact that there were a lot of bugs and a foul stench all around them made it much more worrisome. Detective Jeffrey Regal of the Walworth County Sheriff quickly arrived on the scene. When he opened the purple suitcase, he discovered a woman's corpse in a black trash bag. Another woman's corpse was in the black suitcase. Her wrists were bound with rope behind her back, and one of them was more rotten than the other. Both corpses showed clear symptoms of decomposition, suggesting that both deceased persons had been dead for a long time, even though the second body was nude with a rope around her neck and a collar. As soon as the horrifying discovery was made public, the area was cordoned off, and a thorough investigation was started. Jeffrey informed his employer over the phone that the whole team would have to be sent out to look for evidence, and the nearby few miles would have to be cordoned off. Mike Gravely, the district attorney, said that his first assumption was that a serial murderer was responsible. Is it possible that there are other corpses nearby? 2 corpses had been discovered and needed to be identified, according to a description and alert that were sent across the Midwest. There was a huge reaction from other police agencies, and they received a lot of names of missing persons. They would have to go through them in the hopes of identifying these ladies. Officers were working around the clock and following leads. The rope that had been used to bind the ladies was being examined by crime scene investigators in the hopes of finding a DNA profile or other clues. Within a day, the tattoos on the lady in the black bag allowed for her identification. 37 years old, Farmington, Minnesota native Laura Simonson. On November 22, 2013, the mother of 7 was reported missing by her family in Minnesota. In the hopes that she had checked in someplace at some time, the missing persons report had visited hotels and motels in Minnesota and Wisconsin, which would be their first significant break. Detective Sergeant Lee Hollitz had been assigned the Laura Simonson missing persons case when it was filed. Because of her drug usage, mental health conditions, and his remarks, I always saw her as weak. Do not misunderstand me. There is no question that Laura was a kind woman. Her last known movements were traced to the Microtel Inn and Suites in Rochester by Detective Sergeant Hollitz. Employees in Minnesota have contacted us to claim they knew the lady from the notices and appeals. Records from the hotel indicated that she had spent 2 nights there on November 2nd and 3rd, and they recalled her smoking in her room. Although she had registered under her own name, she wasn't by herself. There was a male with her, according to hotel security video. He had paid cash for the room and refused to check himself in. During that period, he was the sole visitor who had made a cash payment. He was seen on CCTV the next day. Leaving alone only a few months after being reported missing, Laura was not spotted leaving in mid-January, wheeling a cart out with boxes and bags on it. She was probably with a guy named Steven Zelich, according to a tip given to Detective Sergeant Hollitz. Laura wasn't there when Hollis requested that the West Dallas Police Department visit Steven's apartment. The FBI and the Wisconsin Division of Criminal Investigation visited Steven's residence a few weeks later. Hollitz did not tell the agents what Steven had told them when he failed to reply to a letter from Detective Sergeant Hollitz, but he did state after that interview that Steven Zelich remained the top target on my radar. According to Steven, she was completely fine when they parted ways after he accompanied her to the hotel in Rochester. Since then, he had not seen or talked to her. On April 28th, a few months prior to Laura's corpse being discovered, he also denied having a sexual connection with music. There was a startling message on a classified ad website. It said that a little woman called Laura Jean Simonson was enslaved by sadist Steven Zelich. He keeps her tied and nude. He is shackled and imprisoned, and he has no plans to ever free this unfortunate lady who has a number of mental illnesses. Since November 2nd, 2013, Steven Mark Zelich has been torturing and whipping her. Steven has prohibited Laura, who is the mother of 7 little children, from communicating with them in any manner. The location of Steven's imprisonment has remained a mystery to the police. We need your help to locate him free. Simonson, Laura. I urge you to persistently annoy Stephen by making frequent calls to his mobile phone and bombarding his email inbox with identical messages. Stephen's phone number and email address were then included in the message. It ended with Stephen candidly discussing how he treats women on the website Colony. His profile name is Mr. Handcuffs, and you may find him there. Thank you, and may God bless everyone who supports our work. Although the identity of the poster remained unknown, this was a very concerning and disturbing message, particularly now that her corpse had been discovered, and it wasn't just her. There was also the other lady, who was being called Jane Doe. According to the description, Jane Doe was between the ages of 15 and 35, 5 feet 2 inches and 5 feet 4 inches tall, and weighed between 120 and 200 pounds, 140 pounds. She had 2 piercings in each ear, an overbite, and a little tattoo of a heart on the bottom left part of her pelvis. A sketch was released in the hopes that someone would recognize her as the police wanted to identify her. In Oregon, Jenny Ges's friends and relatives knew it was her. All they needed to do was look at her dental records, which would definitely identify music as belonging to a foster parent. Her 19-year-old Jenny was from Cottage Grove, Oregon, and was a college student. She was noted as having a warm attitude, being a free spirit, usually smiling, and being very gregarious and extroverted. Jenny was a mother, according to her friend Sonia, but she no longer had custody of her kid. Jenny, who had a hard time moving between foster homes in Lane County, had worked closely with Tammy Scott, the counselor from her former high school. Since her friends and foster family thought she had simply lost contact with them after leaving Oregon, I believe she likely imagined she may meet someone who would love her and potentially be duped by someone. Because her father wasn't in the country, she only sometimes spoke to him and had limited touch with her mother. She received a scholarship to the community college she attended after graduating with honors from an alternative high school. She always had a cheerful attitude and perspective, according to those who knew her from F to Care. The police now needed to determine how she died and who was to blame, as they had to do Simonson, Laura. He informed the cops that Laura had told a friend she was heading to Wisconsin. Additionally, he was aware of her login credentials and passwords for other websites. One website in particular caught our attention. Jenny had also utilized it. Both ladies had communicated with the same guy, and it was intended for BDM enthusiasts. In one exchange with him, Laura said that no one would ever locate her if he were to murder her. His car was monitored, his email was linked to a West Allis flat, and he was immediately placed under surveillance. The cops were waiting for him when he got home from work. He said he had never met Laura face to face. He consented to provide a DNA sample. He claimed to have been engaged in BDSM ever since he first became interested in it at the age of 19. He was looking for a long-term, brackets perm, 24/7 slave for complete possession, according to his internet profile. Slavery in SLS. I'm looking for no boundaries. Slaves agree to a life of enslavement and dehumanization. There is no turning back. Nothing compares to seeing a slave hooded, gagged, blinded, chained, imprisoned, or led by her collar on a leash while wearing manacles at her wrists and ankles. For someone who can comprehend wants and desires and needs to be controlled by another, this is a position of complete captivity. The rope came in handy because they had a match to the DNA found on the rope that had tied Jenny up. This matched the man they had interviewed about the disappearance of Laura Simonson, the man with the apartment in West Allis, and the profile on the BDMS website. He also installed software that cleaned and wiped his computer on a regular basis, something he had done tens of thousands of times. However, he was unaware that Laura's computer had left a digital footprint of their conversations, and the hotel security footage showed that it was the same man, 52 years old. Following a DNA match, the investigators obtained an order to examine Stephen Zeich's flat. The discovery of bleach and cleaning materials struck me as strange right away given how dirty his place was. They discovered a police badge and a variety of sex toys and bondage equipment in one of the luggage. The badge was authentic. Detectives in hazmat suits were seen taking evidence bags and his refrigerator out of this man's residence. He was a former police officer. Between February 1989 until his resignation in August 2001, Stephen Zellick was employed by the West Allis Police Department. He had pursued women while on duty and exploited his position as an officer to get their private and sensitive information, according to very unsettling facts uncovered during an internal probe. He was accused of harassing sex workers and dancers in the neighborhood strip clubs while he was a police officer. Some dancers said he would pull them over to ask them out, while another dancer claimed he had asked her out on dates almost 1,000 times in 8 years. He developed an obsession with a hairdresser at a nearby salon, waiting for her in an alleyway, or even stopping her vehicle to ask her out. Stephen didn't care that she wasn't interested when she informed him that she was in a relationship and had a kid. According to reports, Stephen's files had 10 disciplinary proceedings throughout his time as a police officer. These included scaring women and locating women's residences using private police information. Here is an audio clip of Stephen discussing these accusations with the police chief. In May 2001, a dancer from a strip club claimed that Stephen had offered her $300 for a private show. She agreed to go back to his place, but when she heard what she believed to be the sound of him taking out a pair of handcuffs, she panicked and tried to escape. According to her, he slammed her to the ground and choked her. Despite the struggle, she managed to break free, ran out of the apartment, and began banging on a neighbor's door, screaming that he was going to kill her. Stephen, however, insisted that she had tried to steal from him. No charges were filed against him, but she was arrested on an outstanding prostitution warrant. A few months later, Stephen resigned from the police force. By doing so, he was able to avoid any official repercussions or disciplinary action. His resignation also allowed him to pass state background checks, which enabled him to obtain a private security officer's license. His former roommate, Jamie, with whom he had once been romantically involved before they decided to remain friends, later shared disturbing details about what she had discovered in his basement. She recalled finding a large wire crate and various bondage items. She also revealed that he had once confessed to her that for 7 years, while working as a police officer, he had kept a woman locked in a cage as his slave. This revelation terrified Jamie. Fearing for her safety and the safety of her children, she waited until Stephen had left for work before packing up her belongings and fleeing with her children in a U-Haul truck. In January, around the same time he was being questioned about Laura's disappearance, Stephen made a post on an online forum. In it, he wrote, "I have just joined the group with the hope of finding an owner, male-female couple. I look for no release, no restriction, slavery, confinement, incarceration, and animalization, preferably in an SL-caged agricultural setting. Please get in touch if you're interested in this degree of control." "Are you serious?" a lady asked. In the early hours of the next day, he replied, "Yes, I am very serious. Please let me know on June 25th, right after, if you know of an owner that wants this level." Woolworth County Police came in West Allis around 8 a.m. and used a battering hammer to enter Stephen's apartment. This was obviously a highly unsettling pattern of conduct, Ram. It's crucial to remember that many people use techniques like BDM in ways that are both safe and satisfying for them. However, a key component of that is safety and consent, which includes establishing boundaries and expectations in a clear and concise manner, as well as using safe words and signals, none of which seemed to have occurred with Stephen. What then was he claiming had occurred? According to the prosecution, how had these two ladies died? Stephen had first met Jenny online through a bondage site when she was just 16 years old and living in foster care. They talked online for about 6 months before it petered out, and then got back in touch with each other when she was 18 again, through the same site according to court records. He had invited Jenny out to Wisconsin, and she agreed to go in August of 2012. She planned to live with Stephen, and he encouraged her to erase her social media account and cut off contact with people. She purchased a one-way ticket to Milwaukee, telling loved ones that she was going there to study welding. He picked her up at the airport, and then they headed to the hotel in Kenosha, near Highway 50 and I-94. They stayed at the Comfort and Suites in Kenosha. For a few days, he said there had been breath play where he would asphyxiate her and control her breathing. He said that he had restrained and blindfolded her before losing control and choking her. His lawyer said that after Jenny's death, he had panicked, put her body into a suitcase, and then taken her body back to his apartment and put her in the refrigerator. He kept her body in his fridge for more than a year as her body began to decompose. It caused the fridge door to open, so he used tape to seal it shut when investigators questioned him about Jenny. He couldn't even remember her. He hadn't even bothered to memorize her name day. According to Mike Gravely, until he returned Laura's corpse, Jenny's body remained in his refrigerator. He packed them both into luggage and carried them to his car's trunk. The scent worsened as the temperature started to rise. People were complaining about his trunk smelling like a dead corpse, according to his manager at the security company who came up to him. He had to have things resolved quickly. Court documents state that Stephen and Laura had also connected online and had decided to meet at a microtel and suites in Rochester, Minnesota. In addition, he had instructed Laura to sell her car, cease paying her parking charges, and deactivate her social media accounts. According to reports, he informed the authorities that she had perished in a choking game that was similar to his own, while his public defender maintained that the fatalities were unintentional and that he had not been attempting to hide or cover up a crime. Prosecutors said that the man had preyed on and targeted women who were weak and at danger. According to his attorney, his client meant for the luggage to be discovered since they had been placed in plain sight. Through a video connection, Stephen appeared in court from the Walworth County Jail. He was charged with 2 counts of concealing a body and given a $1 million bond amount. His attorney had requested that bond be set at $50,000, citing his client's strong community connections and university degree. But the court agreed with the prosecution that a greater sum was necessary for public safety. Given the possibility that he would leave the country before this matter is resolved, the defendant's own account of what happened and how it happened unquestionably justifies a substantial cash bond. Throughout the hearings, Stephen Zellick remained mute. The court rejected his claim that these fatalities were unintentional. Judge Philip C. said, "I don't understand why someone wouldn't call 911 right away if there is absolutely no crime. But it's also unclear why these bodies need to be hidden at all if there is no crime." He had only been charged with 2 counts of concealing a body so far, but this was about to change. Stephen was charged with first-degree deliberate murder and concealing a body in connection with Jenny G.E.S.'s death on Tuesday, August 5th. The fact that this individual would be subjected to such a severe humiliation is a crime that is almost unfathomable. Laura passed away in Minnesota, therefore charges were brought there, according to Kenosha County Circuit Judge Bruce Roda. The case was put on hold until the Wisconsin court processes were over. Since Stephen was quickly recognized as a suspect in Laura's abduction and the hotel's security camera video showed them checking in together, Robert Zapp, the district attorney for Cauchy County, said Laura's death had been crucial in cracking the case. According to Zapp, he decided to arrest Stephen because he didn't think the fatalities were the result of sex games gone bad or the unintentional killing of 2 women over a 15-month period. He could call it inadvertent, given the situation, but I would call it murder. According to him, Laura was characterized by her family as a fragile adult with a history of mental health issues. According to her father, her children were placed in his custody in 2010 after she posted escort advertisements on Craigslist. Alyssa, one of her challenged kids, passed away suddenly in June 2013 at the age of 13. After this, Kaylee, Laura's second daughter, visited a website that raised money to assist my mother in receiving assistance for my sister's passing. "The only refuge my mother has is her automobile, which is breaking down, and she is homeless." Although no funds were raised by the campaign, Laura was living in Farmingdale with her mother, Mary, by the fall. On November 2nd, Laura left the home for the first time to meet her internet acquaintance. Zellick, Stephen Laura was reported missing 20 days later. Prosecutors would claim that he had targeted those who might disappear without much suspicion in order to prove that these killings had been deliberate. He assisted them in shutting individuals off and deleting their internet presences. He also murdered them in ways that were more difficult to look into. Mike gravely said that he would give a strategic selective confession in which he merely stated that the prosecution would claim that his stint in the police helped him plan and execute his crimes. The announcement that a plea agreement had been reached was necessary to validate what the investigators already knew on the day his trial over Jenny's death was scheduled to begin. In addition to concealing a body, Stephen Zellick, 54, entered a guilty plea to first-degree reckless murder with the use of a deadly weapon. Originally facing life in prison without the possibility of release, the plea agreement revised the prosecution's plan to seek the maximum punishment of 75 years in jail. Gravely said, "This is the safest way to be sure that Stephen Zellick was not going to be able to end anybody else's life, and we know that there is behavior here that is extremely dangerous." The prosecution consented to drop the optional charge of first-degree deliberate murder, and Stephen agreed to enter a guilty plea to the lesser charge of first-degree reckless homicide with use of a deadly weapon, the rope. For concealing a body, he received a sentence of 35 years in jail and 10 years of extended supervision, with 5 years to be served consecutively. According to Mike Gravely, this statement pleased him. According to the defense lawyer, the main goal of this case was to ensure that Stephen Zellick would not return to the community until he was so old that he would no longer pose a threat. After the court disagreed and said that he would take Laura's death into consideration, Jonathan Smith asked the judge not to do so. The willingness to take the same risk with another person is where the heinousness of this act is most obvious. The judge remarked that while friends, family, and loved ones often swarm the courtroom in situations like this, Jenny's case was different. Through a telephone, an anonymous sister listened silently but remained silent. However, this was not the end of the case. There was still Laura Simonson's death to make amends for. Stephen Zellick, who is now 55 years old, entered a guilty plea to second-degree murder with intent to kill Laura Simonson, 37. He received a 25-year jail term. Stephen was given the maximum punishment for the accusations, even though the court acknowledged that he had been helpful. As she talked to him, Judge Pamela King fought back tears. "Human life should not be messed with, Mr. Zellick." Those who referred to Laura Simonson as their mother, daughter, sister, and friend loved and appreciated her. "You're going to stay behind bars long enough to prevent you from hurting any other women." While he rots in a cage, Laura's daughter calls him a monster, expressing disappointment among certain members of her family that he did not get the maximum punishment of 40 years. Perhaps he will come to see the extent of the anguish he has caused to so many others. According to her, his attorney expressed his profound regret and said that he had filed this plea in order to prevent further pain to Laura's family. After serving his time in Wisconsin, he will complete the Minnesota term. Stephen Zellick will never be released from prison because of these consecutive sentences. It's difficult to know how to wrap up this episode because it's heartbreaking to consider how much Laura and Jenny must have suffered as mothers, and the heartbreak that followed their deaths is just too terrible to imagine. Laura's sister, Nikki, said that her mother grieves for the daughter she lost and is always wondering what if she did this or that. Would that have saved Laura from this monster? It won't bring Laura and Jenny back, but it will give our families peace of mind that this monster can never prey on women again. Nothing in my life has been simple. Nothing has ever been provided to me, according to an essay Jenny wrote for a college course. She went on to say that she wanted to work with foster children as a social worker someday. "I still haven't decided how I'm going to change the world, but I want to."